Hello everyone! Welcome to the fourth installment of my Sana and Akito video series. In this series, we go through each volume of the manga and analyze the development of both Sana and Akito within their relationship as well as individually. If you haven't seen the previous videos in this series, I highly recommend you watch those and then come back here. I will link the playlist in the description below. Now let's dive into volume 4 of the manga and explore how Sana and Akito will develop over the course of these next few chapters. The Kurata household is in shambles as Sana arrives with Akito at the Hayama residence. After trying to put on a happy facade, Sana breaks down in tears and comes to Akito for comfort. She contemplates how she ended up here, being comforted by Akito after all they've previously been through. Akito holds her close until he decides to break the tension by asking Sana why she hasn't started wearing a bra yet. This reminds me a lot of the moment in the previous volume where Akito decided to touch Sana inappropriately due to being emotionally overwhelmed, presumably. Shortly after arriving, Sana falls asleep on the couch after watching a news report about Akito taking Sana away from her house on his bike. While Sana is asleep, Fuyuki calls Misako and offers to have Sana stay over for a little while until things calm down. Misako agrees, as things are still hectic back at the Kurata household, and the Hayama family reads Misako's books as Sana continues to sleep. Misako describes Sana as a very happy child in her book, but unsure of how she took the news that Misako was not her real mother. Sometimes little Sana would come out of her room, her eyes red from crying, but continue to put on a happy face when she was acting or spending time with her mom. From what we know about Sana, it's possible that she felt like she didn't want to be a burden to anyone else with her emotions, which is why she would only cry when she was alone. It really shows how empathetic she was and still is at this point, always putting the feelings and needs of others above her own, as she probably understood how painful the situation was for Misako as well. Akito's sister, Natsumi, thinks that Sana doesn't mind being abandoned or having people know about it as long as she's with her mom. While this is true, I do think the fact that Sana was abandoned is why she is so afraid of losing her mom. She might have resolved any kind of sadness related to her abandonment early on because Misako took such good care of her, but I still believe it did damage to her psychologically and became a very real fear for her. After Sana wakes up, her and Natsumi look at family photos, most notably a photo of baby Akito. Sana notices Akito's birthmark and then reveals that she has 3 moles in a row on her bottom. Later that night, Sana and Akito are both unable to sleep. They both go into the hallway and notice each other, when Sana asks if she can come and be with Akito in his room. She asks him if he noticed the secret message hidden within the first letter of each of her mom's book's chapters, which states, "Mother, come forward." It's revealed that the true purpose of the book was to find Sana's biological mother. Akito asks her if she wants to meet her, and while Sana seems hesitant towards the idea, she starts worrying that Misako will end up giving her back to her biological mom. Akito says Sana needs to tell her mom she won't go back, but Sana says that she can't do it and starts to cry. This is when Akito reassures her that he will tell her mom for her, and the two fall asleep together shortly after. This is another instance where Sana is putting the needs of someone else above her own. She feels obligated to do whatever she thinks her mother wants, instead of advocating for herself and her own needs. In this moment, Akito understands how much this is hurting Sana, which is why he states that he would tell Misako how much Sana wants to stay with her. Sana sees how much Akito understands, and while she is still sobbing, I believe that in this moment she feels relief more than anything. She knows that she isn't alone in her suffering anymore. Morning arrives, and the two are watching a news broadcast where Naozumi reveals that he too was abandoned at birth and does not know his real parents. Sana watches this, devastated, because she doesn't like dragging Naozumi into her problems either. Akito reassures her that he's doing it of his own free will, and that Sana shouldn't worry about it, another moment that shows how attuned Akito is to Sana's emotions. Meanwhile, back at the Kurata house, Misako receives a call from a woman claiming to be Sana's biological mother. Rei goes to pick her up, noticing how young she looks when she reveals that she's only 25. To prove that this mystery woman is Sana's real mother, she tells Misako about Sana's 3 moles on her backside. Rei calls the Hayama residence and tells Sana that her biological mother has been found. In shock, she tells Akito what just happened. Sana panics and begs Akito to run away before Rei gets there to pick her up, when he stops her and tells her that she needs to face this. Sana asks if Akito can come along with her, anxious about the uncertainty of the situation. As they are heading to Sana's home, she thinks about how she wishes she knew how Misako was feeling, not really caring much about seeing her birth mother. Once they arrive, Misako asks why Akito is there as well, and Rei explains to her that Sana needs him to be there because he helps her to be more herself. Sana seems confused as to why Misako is so dismissive about going with her to talk to Keiko, her birth mother, which seems to put her in a more uncomfortable state of anxiety. As with anything though, Sana immediately puts on a happy, cheerful face when greeting Keiko for the first time. The meeting is initially humorous, albeit tense. Sana asks Keiko a lot of questions about her birth and finds out Keiko has another daughter. Keiko breaks down crying after Sana calls her her little sister. Sana decides to meet up with Keiko and her daughter at the amusement park that Sunday, along with Akito and Tsuyoshi. Even though Sana seems excited to meet her little sister, she wonders if her mom is avoiding her, as she's been shut in her room working constantly. Sana has a fun time with everyone at the amusement park, including her little sister, but realizes that she has no real sisterly feelings towards her. Before they leave the park, Keiko asks Sana if she would ever come to live with her. Sana tells her no, and that she could never think of Keiko as her mother or even her friend. However, she thanks Keiko for giving birth to her. As Akito and Tsuyoshi watch the scene, Tsuyoshi asks Akito if those are Sana's acting tears, to which Akito replies, "She'd cry a lot prettier if she was acting." In this moment, Sana is finally facing her fears and advocating for herself. Once Sana arrives home, she sits down with her mother, still feeling anxious as she still has no idea what Misako is thinking. Misako tells Sana how much she's been worrying about the situation as well, and regretfully reflects on her choice to tell Sana the truth about her birth at such a young age. Misako reveals that the real purpose of the book was not only to find Sana's birth mother, but for her to be the one to find her first and let her know that Sana is her daughter. Sana realizes how afraid Misako was of losing her, and the two comfort each other, knowing that they were both worried about the same thing. In the aftermath of the book being published and facing her past, Sana is happier than ever with a huge weight lifted from her shoulders. Through this situation, we can assume that Sana feels much more confident not only in her relationships, but also with her identity. She has an even stronger bond with her mother, and she can rely on Akito to be there for her when things get difficult. Having these solid relationships in place will help her grow individually, as we will continue to see as Sana and her friends finish elementary school and head into junior high. Meanwhile, Akito is doing really well in karate, passing all of his exams and exudes a confidence about him that never existed at the start of the series. Sana visits the orphanage where her and Naozumi stayed as babies and discuss how their birth parents were probably following their acting careers. Autumn has arrived, and Sana decides to have a middle birthday party with Akito since he's never had a birthday party before. By middle birthday, Sana means that they celebrate both her and Akito's birthday on the date right in between their birthdays, which happens to be on Christmas Eve. Akito seems annoyed by the idea of having to get Sana a present, but pushes the idea to the back of his mind for the moment. At the Karada home, Rei tells Sana that she's been selected to be a part of a movie directed by a very famous and popular director, Mikio Ono. Rei excitedly announces that the part was specifically written for her, and despite this, she immediately declines the offer. It turns out that Sana has been turning down most of her acting jobs lately, and wants to focus on school. She daydreams about joining new clubs and making new friends. This gives us a glimpse into how Sana has changed since confronting her past, as she's finally able to give herself some room to discover what she wants to do and who she wants to be. Before we know it, it's the week of Christmas Eve. Out of desperation, Akito asks Tsuyoshi to ask Sana what she wants the most, as he is unsure of what gift to get her for Christmas. Even after the two go out shopping, Akito is still empty-handed as he has no idea what to get for her. Christmas Eve and the middle birthday party are in full swing, and Sana gives Akito a toy dinosaur as a present because she noticed that he had dinosaur toys in his room. He tells her that he doesn't hate dinosaurs and starts to regret not getting her anything. While everyone is playing out in the snow, a stray dog approaches them. Sana is very friendly to the dog, and Akito watches, telling Tsuyoshi how Sana probably sees him in the same way that she sees the stray dog. He doesn't believe that Sana actually spends time with him because she likes him, but she sees him as a stray dog, meaning someone who could use a friend or some help, but means nothing more to her. As I discussed in part 2 of the video series, our two main characters have very different love languages. Akito's is definitely physical touch, as we have seen him go to actions whenever he feels emotionally overwhelmed. With Sana, this isn't necessarily the case, as she usually responds the best to words of affirmation. We also have seen with Sana how she loves to give gifts to people that she loves, the most notable example being with Rei, and how she would give him money and even his sunglasses. I think both Sana and Akito don't understand how the other communicates when it comes to matters of the heart, which is why both of them get so confused when they think about how the other feels about them. It would make sense how Akito didn't quite pick up on the fact that Sana cares deeply for him after getting him a present based on observations about his bedroom. He makes the assumption that Sana only hangs around him because she feels bad for him, using the stray dog as an analogy. In reality, this is how Sana expresses feelings of love, by taking care of the people she feels closest to. After everyone leaves, Akito remains in the backyard, building a snowman for Sana. Sana is very grateful for this gift, as Akito tries to muster up the courage to tell Sana how he really feels about her. Akito awkwardly tries to get his feelings out using words, but to no avail. Sana listens patiently, unsure of what Akito is trying to tell her, even assuming that he's trying to ask to use the bathroom. After his failed attempt at using his words to express his feelings, he pulls Sana close and kisses her. Unlike the first kiss, Sana lets it happen as she watches Akito run away into the snowy evening. As Sana heads back inside, she thinks about how Akito's eyes drew her in. She asks her mom if Akito likes her, with Misako dumbfounded that Sana still hasn't figured it out for herself. She needs words, not actions. Sana talks about how she's never really thought about liking boys, and seems even more confused about the situation with Akito than before. As she drifts off to sleep that night, she thinks about the differences between the two kisses that they've shared, and thinks that Akito could be her Mr. Right. Winter break is over, and the tension between Sana and Akito at school has returned, this time because of the Christmas kiss. Akito is annoyed at Tsuyoshi questioning him about what happened on Christmas Eve, while Sana feels uncomfortable and doesn't seem to know how to interact with Akito. Sana's had enough, and she marches up to Akito during class and asks him if he likes her, prompting Akito to fall over right into the class project. Being put on the spot in front of the whole class makes Akito uncomfortable, and he tells Sana to shut up and that he doesn't like her, prompting Sana to ask for the kisses back. This is one of those moments that remind us that this is definitely a manga about elementary school students and not high school kids. Later that day, Naozumi comes over to see Sana to convince her to take the movie role offered by director Ono. Sana would be playing the ghost of a 14-year-old girl who has the personality of a 20-year-old woman. While she seems intrigued by the role, she's still unsure as she wants to focus on school and doesn't want to leave her friends behind. Sana runs into Akito jogging past the next day while Sana is out on a walk with her dogs. With the conversation with Naozumi still heavy on her mind from the day before, she asks Akito what he would do if she became busy with work again and couldn't see him for a while. Akito says the only thing that would keep Sana from him and her other friends would be dying, and states that even if she was dead, she could probably see her friends as a ghost, which prompts Sana to decide to take the movie role. She then asks Akito if he still ever feels like wanting to die. He shakes his head, and Sana smiles knowing that Akito has finally come out of his past suffering as a happier person. Sana and her friends have graduated elementary school and are now headed to junior high. Not a whole lot has changed once Sana meets up with her friends in the schoolyard, apart from Akito's height and Gomi's shaved head. Sana heads to the girls' room as she's still unhappy with how she cut her bangs, and sees a girl checking in the mirror for the same reason. This is where we meet Fuka Matsui, who recognizes Sana from TV and mentions how the two will be in the same class together. Sana and Fuka hit it off immediately, as the two have very similar outspoken personalities. Later on that day, Sana overhears that there's a fight going on in the schoolyard and immediately figures out who it probably is started by. Aya and Tsuyoshi are down in the schoolyard watching the fight. Aya tells Sana that the other dark-haired boy attacked Akito. Sana breaks up the fight, and it's revealed that the kid with the dark hair and bushy eyebrows is a big fan of hers. The fight started all because he asked Akito if he could meet Sana. Even though Akito denied him, saying it would be work, it's pretty obvious that he knew he was interested in Sana and wanted to keep the dark-haired kid away from her. Akito is taken to the nurse's office to lay down and says to Sana how it must be hard for her how strangers know and like her. I got a sense of sarcasm from Akito for stating this. Sana reflects on how nothing really has changed since elementary school, and she thinks about all of the moments the two have shared together during their time there, and she wonders how the both of them are going to change during middle school. During lunch a few days later, Sana tells Fuka about Akito. Fuka seems to recall hearing the name Akito Hayama somewhere, and when the two finally meet, she realizes who he is, and smacks him in the face for stealing her first kiss and ruining her life. Volume 4 closes with this revelation, and just like Sana, we are left wondering what is going on here. While most of Kodocha thus far focuses on Sana and Akito coming into their own identities, Volume 4 shifts the focus onto how each of their identities shape their relationships with family, friends, and each other. This is also true vice versa, as Kodocha explores how relationships are affecting the character's development as well. During the My Daughter and I arc, it's all about Sana finding her own voice, being able to express her wants and needs to those around her without fear. Another reason why this is a big turning point for Sana's character development is because she realizes that she no longer needs to carry her emotional burdens alone, but can rely on others in her life to help her through difficult times. I find it interesting how the previous volumes are more focused on Akito's development, sidelining our main character for a bit until now. While Sana's growth is subtle, it doesn't become clear or prevalent until Volume 4 in my opinion. Sana struggles a lot throughout Volume 4, figuring out what she wants to do with her life, and questions what's really important to her. During my analysis of Sana in this video, we are going to continue using the model of psychosocial development created by psychologist Erik Erikson. However, I want to explore some of the earlier stages of development in the model, since we now have a clearer picture of what Sana's childhood was like. If you would like an overview of Erikson's theory, I left a link in the description below that explains each of the 8 stages. Also, if you have not done so, I highly encourage you to watch parts 1 through 3 of this video series, since I explain the model itself and how it applies to Sana and Akito's development. Let's go ahead and take a look at Sana's character development, starting with her very early childhood. All the way back in my Volume 1 analysis video, I skipped the very first stage of psychosocial development for Sana, as there wasn't much known about her early life at this point in the series. The first stage is known as trust versus mistrust. This stage of development takes place approximately from birth to 2 years old. As the name implies, this stage focuses on the development of trust within an infant based on the actions of their caregivers. It's important to keep in mind that trust exists on a spectrum, and Erikson believes that there should be a healthy balance of trust as well as mistrust, as it can help the child learn when to take risks but be cautious in future situations and relationships. Trust is built through adequate comfort, care, and attention to the infant's basic needs. However, if this care is inadequate, it can lead to depression, being suspicious of others, and fearful of rejection later on in life. If we view trust as a spectrum, this helps us understand Sana's behavior and development so much more than if we simply viewed her as falling on one side of the trust versus mistrust stage. From what we've seen in Kodocha so far, Misako took very good care of Sana after finding her abandoned in the park, and was always attuned to her basic as well as emotional needs. However, since Sana was abandoned by her birth mother, there's an amount of mistrust that Sana experiences as she gets older. This is evident by the fact that she kept the reality of her birth a secret from everyone for years, and had trouble telling Misako how the publication of her book made her afraid that she would be taken away from her. As I discussed in part 1 of the video series, Sana overall has a healthy development within the next 3 stages of psychosocial development. Interestingly though, because of Sana's development at stage 1, it seemed to hinder her ability to come into stage 5, identity versus role confusion, which is all about answering the question, who am I, and finding your true identity. Because of the circumstances surrounding her birth, Sana had difficulties trusting those around her entirely, keeping her most vulnerable secrets and emotions to herself. Due to these feelings, Sana was unable to be her authentic self to a degree. Even though Sana is mostly outgoing and a happy person from what we can see, she still had a level of mistrust that kept her from embracing the darker aspects of herself. By confronting the reality of her birth, she was able to gain the courage to trust others with her deeper thoughts and feelings. After this, we begin to see Sana really thinking about her wants and needs, such as wanting to focus more on school and spending time with her friends. This implies that Sana can finally begin to develop her true sense of self more easily than before, thus having a smoother transition into stage 5 of psychosocial development, identity versus role confusion. Towards the end of Volume 3 of the manga and throughout Volume 4, Sana starts coming into this stage of development, which is typically experienced between the ages of 12 and 18. To explore this stage of development further, I'd like to bring up psychologist James Marsh's expansion on the concept of identity, known as the theory of identity statuses. As we are developing our identity through our teen years, Marsh's theory argues that we go through 4 statuses of identity development, which are identity diffusion, when a person has not explored their identity at all, identity foreclosure, committing to an identity or role without exploring other things and can occur due to peer pressure or societal expectations, identity moratorium, when a person actively explores different things to find their identity, and finally, identity achievement. This is a lifelong process, but is indicated by a person developing a strong sense of self after exploring different identity roles and finding their true sense of self. In the second half of Volume 4, we could argue that Sana is currently experiencing identity diffusion, as she is only starting to figure out what she really wants in life. We can see this as she considers joining a variety of clubs in school and seeking fulfillment outside of her acting career. There could also be an argument made that Sana goes through identity foreclosure, as she is pressured into taking on the movie role offered to her by director Ono by both Rei and Naozumi. After Sana's breakthrough in her development at the beginning of Volume 4, she really begins to consider her own identity. As we will see going forward, Sana explores this identity through understanding her own emotions, desires, and the roles other people play in her world. Since the major focus of Volume 4 is on Sana's backstory and development, a lot of Akito's character development is put on the back burner. We still see him developing his karate skills with a newfound confidence that began to manifest in the previous volume. We can also see how dedicated Akito has become to training, as we see him jogging and working on his physical fitness in general. Going back to Marsh's theory on identity status, we could say that Akito fits into the identity moratorium stage, as he is really investing time into his identity and exploring other avenues of self-discovery, such as his willingness to get into other fitness-related activities apart from karate. As Akito enters junior high, we are left with many questions as to how he will develop further, especially when it comes to his ability to communicate his romantic feelings towards Sana. At this point in Kodocha, it's unclear how Sana and Akito's relationship will develop going forward. The two have kissed twice, and we can see a noticeable change in how Sana reacts to and thinks about Akito. The two are still quite the opposite when it comes to showing affection or intimate feelings, with Akito still struggling to verbally tell Sana how he feels, and Sana being unable to read Akito's actions properly. As mentioned before, the two have totally different love languages, with Akito's being physical touch and quality time primarily, and Sana's being words of affirmation and gift-giving, which is highlighted during the Christmas/middle birthday party. As both characters are just now exploring their identities, it makes sense why they still have a hard time understanding each other, because they are just starting to understand themselves. As the two navigate through middle school, they will start to understand more about themselves and what it really means to have romantic feelings for someone. The middle school years for Sana and Akito will change them forever, just as their year together in elementary school did. Since these two are opposites, they feed off of each other in terms of development as they learn new perspectives from one another. Akito learned to develop his identity through Sana's intervention and encouragement, while Sana learned to stand up for her own needs and confront her problems through Akito's support. We are left wondering many things after finishing Volume 4 about how Sana and Akito will grow as themselves and as a couple. While they are not romantically involved at this point, they have started to heavily rely on each other for emotional support. The outcome of their relationship will have a great effect on their individual development going forward. Will junior high make or break them? Will there be new obstacles that make it harder for them to express their true feelings and desires? These are the questions we are left with after Volume 4. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you haven't already, please check out the other videos of my Sana and Akito relationship series. A link to the playlist of the videos will be in the description below. For those of you who have followed this series for the past few years, thank you for your patience, as these particular videos take a long time to make, since I want them to be as accurate and thorough as possible. Until next time, see ya!